فمن زحزح عن النار وأدخل الجنة فقد فاز وما الحياة الدنيا إلا متاع الغرور. فقد روي عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم بدأ الإسلام غريبا وسيعود غريبا كما بدأ أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. So alhamdulillah, my dear respected brothers and elders, in every zaman there were challenges for the people of Iman. There were different trials, different tribulations. Yeah? In the time of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the predominant belief and ideology of the people was shirk, the worship of other than idols, other than Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, the worship of idols. If we look at all the ancient civilizations in history, there was not, or rarely you could find, that there were people that denied the existence of God or religion. We in this time are facing a new phenomenon, which is atheism. What's the fastest growing religion in the world today? Fastest growing religion. If you Google it, say the fastest growing religion is Islam. But perhaps the fastest growing ideology is atheism. The disbelief in God and the rejection of any religion. Why is that? It's not that, mashallah, because we are in this modern world and our knowledge has become so advanced, we've reached the pinnacle of technology and understanding of the world and understanding of reality, and that's why people have found that atheism is the correct belief and religion is backwards. That's the way they like to portray it. They put religion under the same category as superstition, these atheists. Yeah? But yet they are foolish enough to read the stars and all that. You know the stars? They're atheists, but they believe in superstitious things like this. And yet they say religion is superstition. But this is not because atheism is so sound in their arguments. No, that's not the case. And it's not because of science. It's not the case. Einstein was a scientist. He wasn't an atheist. But for us to understand why atheism is spreading like wildfire now, and I often give this example, in the West, atheism is spreading like wildfire. We have, regularly coming to our mosque, the elite Christian private schools coming to visit. Yeah. Just this week we had 2 groups. Anyway, in one time I was addressing a gathering of 150 students, Christian students, or from a Christian school. And I asked them the question that, how many of you believe in God? And from a gathering of 150 students, 6 people raised their hands. I mean, if I went to AIC or any Muslim school and I asked this question, how many of you believe in God? Even their behavior is bad, they may be a rowdy bunch. Yeah, AIC, our Muslim students. But I'm sure I'll get 100% hands. So all of us believe in God. But here, in this Christian school, 6 people raised their hands to say they believed in God. And it's important we understand why. Like I mentioned, it's not because atheism is so convincing. It's not because it's rational. To say that this world existed from nothing is illogical. To say that something comes from nothing, that 0 plus 0 equals something, is irrational, illogical. But why is atheism spreading? It's to do with the spread of secular liberalism in Europe And we have to understand this history. To understand why we are facing the conditions today, we have to look at what happened yesterday. Europe, the West, before the Enlightenment, they were predominantly Christians. Yeah. And they had, everlasting wars that would just continue. A lot of bloodshed amongst the two main denominations of Christianity, the Catholics and the Protestants. And they were killing one another. The other one would burn, the powerful ruling denomination would burn the others at the stake for being heretics. And this happened. You read about the French Revolution, how many thousands of priests were killed, how many tens and thousands of Christians were killed. And this went on for decades after decade. And they said enough is enough. Then they went through this phase called the Enlightenment. That, look, enough is enough. Religion has not worked. What used to happen was that the law of the land would be the law of God. So they assumed. The law of the Bible. It wasn't a secular, democratic law that they made up. Man-made laws. No. It was their understanding of the Bible. Yeah. So, but this was not helping them because they were fighting, killing one another. They said enough is enough. Religion is not solving our problems. They said we have to separate religion from the state. Give unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar and to God what belongs to God, they say. Keep your religion in your churches, in your houses, but there will be no religion in the public arena. In the public sphere, we will not allow religion. Yeah? If you want religion, you are free to practice in your houses, in the church, but not in the public domain. We won't allow that. And education that used to be taught by the religious clergy, and when they taught, they would say, God is the creator of the world. Now, we, the government, we will take over that. And religion was replaced with science. Science in such a way that secular science. Secular means we take God out of the equation. So you're no longer going to be taught that God is the creator of the universe. We won't teach that anymore. They'll find something else to replace God. The Big Bang theory, evolution, the theory of evolution. These things will replace religion. And because they've had such a dark history with regards to violence in their religion, they project that to us. They project that to us. You know, it's a myth when they say that Islam is violent. They used to kill one another for centuries. And the deaths and the world wars, the two main world wars prior to, I'm not talking about these recent invasions of Afghanistan and Iraq and all that, but the two world wars where large numbers of people were killed was not because of religion. And likewise the invasions, their drones and their bombs, it was not perpetrated by Muslims. Don't ever accept that narrative. Don't ever let them educate us about being violent. This is a myth. We won't accept that. So then, at that time, we rewind the clock now, 1914, what did the world look like at that time? Yeah. So as we remember, the West had already left religion behind. Yeah, they were still practicing people, but how can God be all-powerful when you won't even allow him to have a voice outside? What type of God, what type of religion is that? When you don't allow God to dictate your affairs in Parliament, does God have a voice? When they make up any law, do they say, oh, this is right or wrong because God says so? No. They will never allow that. Even when, Catholics or whatever, they have an issue with something because it's a religious issue. Like recently, probably the most recent one was voluntary assisted dying. It's just a fancy name for suicide. They call it what? Voluntary assisted dying. But really it's just what? Suicide. So this was, a law that they wanted to pass. It's probably been passed since then. But it's probably evolving all the time, the rights, to what extent. When they wanted to pass this, they were discussing what to do, how to do that, and actually they invited some of the Imams to their churches to discuss this, because they thought it's a common issue. And, they had someone giving different speeches and reciting from their Bible and then from the Psalms and all this and I was thinking, and when it was my turn to speak, I said, look, because there was rabbis there was Christian priests there, and there was me, the Imam, representing Islam. So when they asked me to speak, and I said, well, I've heard a lot from you, from your religion, and I can also tell you we also believe, in the 10 Commandments of Musa alayhi salam, thou shalt not kill. But where is this law going to be passed? In Parliament. Those people that are going to be sitting there and making up this law, they're not going to be your priests and your rabbis and your imams. So we can't say this is wrong because God says so, it's morally wrong. We can't say that. Because why? God has been thrown out. So this is the life. When you push religion to the fringes and God doesn't have a say, what importance are you teaching the people, the masses, the child, when he sees that decisions are made not based on God, not based on religion? Is he going to have any concern about religion? He's going to grow up with the environment that surrounds him. Iman, belief in Allah, is the default fitra, the default state of a human being. They've had experiments where they've shown babies a picture, for example, of a car or of a train or a plane, and they ask, not a baby, but an infant that can understand, and they ask him that, who made this? And they say, men made this. Human beings made this. And you show them a picture of mountains, the sun. You ask them, who made this? They'll say, God. People that have not been taught religion, have not been influenced, it's normal for them, as our Prophet ﷺ said, يُولَدُ كُلُّ مَوْلُودٍ عَلَى فِطْرَةٍ. Every child is born upon that natural state. فَأَبَوَاهُ يُهَوِّدَانِهِ أَوْ يُنَصِّرَانِهِ أَوْ يُمَجِّسَانِهِ أَوْ كَمَا قَالَ عَلَيْهِ الصَّلَاةُ وَالسَّلَامُ. It's the parents that will make that child either a Majusi, a Jew, or a Christian. So meaning the external influence of what their parents put in front of them, and that's how they'll be molded. That was in their time. In our time, parents have some influence, but the society also has some influence. So when our kids go to school, what religion are they being taught? When our kids go to school, what ideology are they being taught? Secular liberalism. What are they being taught? Secular liberalism. That God is not important, religion is not important. The secular liberal aqidah believes in the authority of the individual. That I own my own body and I have supreme authority over myself. I can do as I like. So it's built on doing as I please to make myself happy. However, they put a clause there, because if we just allowed that rule, that principle of do as you like, then people will infringe upon the rights of others. They'll violate the rights of others. They'll cause harm to others. So they put another clause in there that do as you like upon the condition that you do not harm others. This is called the harm principle. These are all actual ideologies, principles of liberalism. When they wanted to replace religion, they had to formulate a code of life. So that's what they've done. So this is the life, the environment that we grew up in. Yeah? And why were they so effective in spreading this? They colonized our lands. So we were following the Quran and Sunnah and believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Muslim countries, wherever we were adhering to this traditional religion. They went through a reformation and they said, okay, we already mentioned they separated religion from the state. Now they started colonizing our lands, taking over our countries. And this happened in that period I mentioned. In 1914, what did the world look like? Who were the superpowers at that time? So you had Britain, which is the number one superpower at that time. Then you had Germany, the German Empire. It wasn't just the country, German Empire. You had France. You had the Austria-Hungarian Empire. It was an empire that no longer exists today. And you had the Russian Empire. And you had the Ottomans, which was the last Khilafat of Islam. Yeah? In 1914. So at that time, we still paid our allegiance to one Khalifa at that time. And what happened was the Khilafat was on the decline, and many of our countries were already colonized. In the subcontinent, India was colonized. In Africa, you had North African countries all colonized. Algeria, Tunisia, these countries were colonized. Then you had Egypt was colonized. Much of Africa was colonized. The Ottomans still were ruling the Middle East, some countries, and Europe. They had some countries under them. Then the British, to weaken the Ummah. And this is why we're facing what we're facing today. To weaken the Ummah, they have this policy of divide and rule. So to the Arabs, at that time, the Arabs were under the Ottomans, but they made a deal with the Sharif of Mecca. Sharif of Mecca, he was the custodian of Mecca, even under the Ottomans, and he'd been doing it for a long time, many generations, that family. He's the great-grandfather of the King of Jordan today. So they promised him that, look, why should the Haramain be with the Turks? You are worthy to be the leader. If you break away from the Ottomans, we will help you. And we'll restore all these Arab lands under you. You will be the leader, you'll be the Khalifa. So they made that promise to him. And many years ago, even when I was a child, there was this movie called The Lawrence of Arabia. It's based on a true story. Terry Lawrence, he was the British spy. And he was used to create this discord between the Arabs and the Turks, which they eventually did. They shed the blood of Muslims. And to the Turks also, they'd done the same. They sowed the seeds of nationalism. That, look, it's about time that Turkey stood up for itself. That you've lost enough blood defending these Muslim lands. So what was their vision? that we can never allow the ummah to rise again. And the only way we do that is we cut off the head. We remove the Khalifa. But they done it gradually. They first stripped him of his powers. It's a bit like, you know how, just an example, like the King and Queen of England. It's the King now. It used to be Queen Elizabeth, now it's the King. Do they have any say in Parliament? Do they have any say in the laws? In medieval Europe, yes. The monarchs ruled. But today, no. It's the government that rules. They are there symbolic. They're wealthy. They get paid a lot. But as far as the laws of the land are concerned, it's not under them. So they done that with the Ottomans. First, they stripped the Khalifa of his power. Yeah. So it's just symbolic, because they knew if they got rid of the Khalifa, the Muslims would revolt. Even if you're living in the furthest corner of India, your allegiance was to the Khalifa. Wherever you lived, the Muslims' allegiance was to the Khalifa. They would not tolerate that you remove the Khalifa. That was the legacy we had from the time of our Prophet Mohammed sallallahu alaihi wasallam. After he left this world, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, the Khulafa Rashidin, the Abbasids, the Umayyads, it never ended, except in the 1920s. But to do that, they had to do some planning. And they realized they had someone that would remove the Khalifa had to be very powerful. He had to be respected, adored, elevated to hero status for him to have the powers to remove the Khalifa. So the Turks, they had a political party called the Young Turks. And in that party was a man by the name of Mustafa Kemal. And this man became a hero. I grew up in Australia. We didn't know. We used to have to celebrate Anzac Day going to public schools. Gallipoli, Anzac Day. But this is, you know, the Turks won that battle. That battle they won. Mustafa Kemal became a hero. Some Muslim historians say this was actually engineered, manufactured to make him a hero. Whether it was or not, but he did become a hero, and then they used him as an agent. This is what's written in some books. So they stripped the Khalifa because he became a hero. Even today, you have the secular people in Turkey, the secular Turks, they adore him. He's like their godfather, Mustafa Kemal. I can't say this openly in Turkey. The secular people would not accept this type of speech. In Australia, we have free speech, don't we? To some extent. Just check with a lawyer. Not everything is. So they stripped him of his powers, and then they said, no, we can't even have that. Because so long as the name exists, Islam can rise again. So we have to remove the concept of Khilafah. So he was taken away to France. Yeah. Sultan Mohammed VI, he was our last Khalifa. So now the head has been cut off. We have all grown up in an era where there's no Khilafah, no Khalifa. We've never had a Khalifa. So we never knew what we missed out on. We never had a father. A person who never had a father, he doesn't really know the loss of not having a father. Because he never had one. Yeah. So we grew up like this. And we grew up where? You see, when they colonized our country, we grew up in Western institutions. We've been fed secular liberalism from a young age. Our mind has to be, we have to be detoxed from secular liberal values. It's difficult. It's difficult. You know, why I'm saying this is because, let's say, we have Christian schools coming, as I mentioned, to visit us. And sometimes I need help because like in one day we have 3 batches. So I call some people, some young Muslims, some university students, and they're very good sincere Muslims, and I'm old, I'm an old man, even though mashallah I still look young, but I'm quite old, more older than what many of you think, yeah? But I see these young, mashallah, 20-year-olds, very sincere. One of the questions they asked was that, why do women, one of the questions, why do women wear hijab? Why do you have to cover yourself? That's oppressive, yeah? So I'm quiet, and I thought it's better a woman answers this question, yeah? So she answered the question, and everyone was happy with her answer. And I thought, wow, that's a good answer. You know what she said? She said that, this hijab, it empowers me. Oh, the West will love that. Empowering women, This answer will please the West. Wearing the hijab empowers me, she said. I decide who gets to see me. I decide. I thought, wow, that's excellent. And everyone was happy with that answer. But deep down, after reflecting, because we have to detox, that's not the correct answer. It may have been good to appease them. It's not the correct answer. Why do I say it's not the correct answer? Why do they love that answer? Because I'm telling you, go back to their aqidah. Who has supreme authority? Who has authority? The individual. That's their aqidah. So when the individual says, it empowers me, they'll accept that. That's liberal language. That's secular liberal language. You answered them with their own secular liberal language. Values that they accept. But what they won't accept is because it's a commandment of Allah. That's why we wear it. They won't accept that. You see? They believe in the authority of the individual. So if a woman says, I wear this because it's my choice, it's my lifestyle choice, my body, my choice. Have you heard that slogan before? My body, my choice. They use that to justify abortions. Who says it's your body? أَفَرَأَيْتُمْ مَا تُمْنُونَ, the Quran says. Do you see that liquid that formed you? أَأَنْتُمْ تَخْلُقُونَهُ أَمْ نَحْنُ الْخَالِقُونَ. Did you create that or did we create it? Who said it's your body? You see? So, this detoxing from secular liberal values is not easy because we were fed this. Some of us will say, no, I was born in, not in Australia. I came to Australia after I'm 30, 40. I don't, that's not the case. Because they colonized our countries. So I'm just giving you an example. This is about Egypt also, but I'm going to speak about India, because I studied from that tradition that was an anti-colonial movement. Deoband is an anti-colonial movement. The founders, Mohammed bin Qasim, rahmatullah alayh, Nanatwi, they formed this as a resistance to the British occupation, to preserve the identity of Muslims and Islam. So what the British done is, at first they tried to wipe out the ulama. They tried to kill the ulama so that we can get rid of Islam and get rid of this resistance and get rid of this Islam. They want everyone to become secular liberalists. But they saw that this is not working. Yes, they were killing ulama, they were hanging them on the trees. But there's resistance. People are getting more angry. This is not the way. So what we have to do is they wanted to remain as Muslim. Let them be Muslims by name. Their skin will be black, brown, or Middle Eastern. But inside they'll be Englishmen, secular liberalists. How will we do that? We will defund those madaris, those institutions that are teaching traditional Islam. And we will only recognize and acknowledge those who come and graduate from our institutions. We'll recognize that. They're BA, MA, PhD, whatever, but those traditional scholars, they're backwards. That's the narrative. And they went as far as to dress their servants, the toilet cleaners, the lowest of the people, in the clothing of ulama and the Muslim kings. Yeah? So that people, they would look upon that as something backwards. This is what the British done. Because they considered religion as backwards. You see? But unfortunately for them, Islam just would not die. Lord Cromer, he was the British consul in Egypt. They called him Lord Cromer. And he wrote this is no secret. He said, we have to reform Islam because in reforming Islam, Islam will no longer remain. Reformed Islam is Islam no more. These were his words. So what you'll do is you'll create progressive Muslims. They'll study from our institutions. When they come out, they will have this inferiority complex towards Islam. And they'll always have in their psyche that West is best. And we have to apologize for being Islam, for practicing Islam. You know, people used to ask us other questions, or you people do polygamy. And we'd have to justify it. Yeah, you know, brother, in those days, you know, there was no center link and men would get killed. You know, that's why there was a lot of excess of women. Yeah, these are all there. But we have to try and justify because to suit the secular liberal values. Oh, but you people don't treat women equally. We have to justify that. How are you going to justify the Quran when the Quran says, فَاسْتَشْهِدُوا شَهِيدَيْنِ مِنْ رِجَالِكُمْ فَإِنْ لَمْ يَكُونَ رَجُلَانِ فَرَجُلٌ وَامْرَأَتَانِ. Quran says you have to have 2 male witnesses. If you can't get 2 male witnesses, then you can have 1 male and 2 females to equal 1 man, but you can't have 2 females alone. This is misogynistic. This is not equality. See, when you accept secular liberal values as universal, and then you see this, the Quran, there's tension now in your mind. Oh, this is what's wrong. There's something wrong here. What is going on? Equality. Since when have men and women become equal? Sorry, brother Raqib, I hope I'm not saying anything controversial. Yeah, and politically incorrect. The Quran says, "Laysa dhakaru kal untha." The male is not like the female. Yeah, it's just a fact of life. Even they acknowledge it. If men and women are equal, they say equality. Okay, you even acknowledge they're different. Otherwise, why can't men and women compete in boxing, in fighting, in track and field at the Olympics? Now they get away with it with trans, I think. They're trying to make laws. That's different. I'm just talking about male and women, man and woman. They're different. It's just a fact of life that only biological females will menstruate and have the ability to have babies. I was confused at one time we were discussing. None of us were experts in the field. We were just discussing in the mosque. They were saying, but no, men can become pregnant. I said, no, really? He says, yeah. I thought, oh, okay. I was thinking, is that true? I had to read up and research. No, men cannot. Biological males cannot become pregnant. Females who afterwards identify as a male, that's something else. They call them, she or he, whatever. That person may identify themselves as a male, but biologically, she was born female. That's why she's pregnant. That's why she can have a baby. That's why she's got double XY chromosome. Men and women are not different, are not the same. So what are we going to do? So we have to detox. People leave Islam. When you accept secular liberal values as universal, then every time you see a conflict, you have to try and justify it. It shouldn't be like that. We look at Quran and Sunnah, and anything that goes against Quran and Sunnah, we say no, we don't accept that. Because whatever Allah says is haqq, whatever our Prophet ﷺ says is haqq, your secular liberal values, at times they may overlap, at times they may be in harmony with Islam. But the moment it goes against Islam, we'll throw it out the window and we'll remain upon Quran and Sunnah. So this is the situation that we're in now, brothers. Every time you send your kids to school, just like you would be hesitant to send your children to a Hindu school because they're learning what? Shirk. Have that same feeling every day when you send your children to school because they're learning kufr of a different type. Secular liberal values, that's what they're learning. And the thing that will remove this is what? Da'wah. Da'wah in the masjids. Da'wah at home. With our wives and our children. We hear something, our wives, they're in a different world. A completely different world in this time. Before, at least you could protect your own four walls of the house. But now you can't. Anything can come in your house. With the technology that we have today, you imagine our grandfathers or great-grandfathers, maybe they were born before the camera. So the only nudity they could have seen, maybe in most cases, 95%, is after they got married. Those who were born before the camera, I'm talking about the camera. Then the camera was invented, then you had magazines, you had all this. And then you had the video, but it was still not accessible. But today it's accessible for everyone, young and old. They say the average 12, 13-year-old has seen more nudity than all our ancestors combined. And that's just from the fawahish. But they're learning ideological things that are dangerous for their iman. And the only way to remove that is da'wah. Traditional Islam is getting watered down. One of the dangers we have in this zaman is the progressive Muslim. What's the progressive Muslim? A Muslim who really doesn't like traditional Islam. He wants to be modern. What I mean, modern, we're not denouncing the right to be advanced technologically. That's something commended in Islam. We, the Muslim Ummah, we had street lamps and paved roads in Andalus, in Muslim Spain, 100 years before they had it in Paris and London. That's how technologically advanced we were once upon a time. Yeah. But I'm talking about the indifference towards religion, towards the Sunnah. This is the danger of the progressive Muslim. Yeah. May Allah Ta'ala give us all tawfiq. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم. طيب إن شاء الله.
Question and answers, 5 minutes. Any questions?
بارك الله.
Brothers, inshallah, you want to ask any questions? Just give it to the floor, inshallah. Here in Hungary.
MashaAllah. They say that if no one asks questions, that means that it was a very boring talk. Yeah. Jazakumullah khair. Barakallah feek. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم انصر الإسلام والمسلمين اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين. اللهم انصر إخواننا في فلسطين. اللهم أهلك عدو الله. اللهم أهلك أعداءهم أعداء الدين. اللهم أهلك الكفرة الذين يكذبون رسلك ويصدون عن سبيلك ويقاتلون أولياءك. اللهم خالف بين كلمتهم وزلزل أقدامهم وأنزل بهم بأسك الذي لا ترده عن القوم المجرمين. اللهم أهلكهم كما أهلكت عادا وثمود. وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.